Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of The Lore of the Ring. Glad for you to join me again. I'm glad that you all are still enjoying what I'm doing here, putting out some content, reviewing some wrestling events that are, nostalgic to some of us, new to some of us, but fun for all of us. So tonight, we're going to discuss a very important pay-per-view in history. ECW, like I've mentioned before, ECW is it's near and dear to my heart. I'm a huge ECW fan. The original ECW. Hopefully we'll not cover the WWE ECW for quite some time, but original ECW is very special to me. And tonight we're covering their first ever pay-per-view. We're talking Barely Legal, which took place in 1997. Now, how'd we get here? This is a renegade promotion. This is a startup. This is a promotion that Paul Heyman ran while living with his parents, and they had to fight to get television time. It was syndicated in a very small region at first. Broke off from the NWA. They were Eastern Championship Wrestling. Then they went Extreme. And flash forward, 3.5 years later? Here we are. Maybe 2.5 years later. Here we are. Barely Legal. And, some backstory on the road to get here. It was not easy. It almost didn't happen. Originally, Barely Legal was supposed to take place at the end of 1996, but the original event got pulled because in November of 1996, New Jack, who, if you're familiar with New Jack, this is going to get crazy. And if you're not familiar with New Jack, just go to YouTube and type in New Jack and watch some stuff. But New Jack stabbed a wrestler. Now, it sounds worse when you phrase it like that than what happened, but it's still bad all around. A wrestler named Eric Koulis was a late substitute on the show. And he tagged with Devon against the Gangsters. And he lied to get on the show. He was only 17, but he told Paul Heyman, hey, I'm 21. I would love to wrestle for ECW. Let me do this. He wrestled under the name of Mass Transit. So he got into the match, and there was a spot he was supposed to bleed, but he didn't want to do it himself. He had never bladed before, and he entrusted New Jack to do it. Bad move, like I said. If you know New Jack, that's dangerous. That's crazy to ask. Hey, man, will you cut me? It's New Jack. So when New Jack went to do it, he went way too deep, dug in the kid, and actually severed 2 arteries, and it was a huge deal. New Jack actually had to go to court over this. But Wade Keller, who is, I haven't said his name before on the show, but he's of the same ilk as Dave Meltzer. He's a wrestling journalist, wrestling reporter, highly respected. I don't have anything bad to say about Wade Keller, but Wade Keller told Request TV, who was one of the major pay-per-view distributors at the time, about the incident, and they canceled the show. It was originally supposed to take place Christmas Eve 1996, but Request TV said, no, don't think so, not after that. Heyman pleaded with Request TV and ended up agreeing to several stipulations for carrying the event. They included not too much blood or profanity on the show. We'll start the show at 9 instead of the usual 7. That way it's on for a later crowd. That's 2 of the biggest. And Request TV wanted to see the script for the show beforehand before they approved it. But eventually they did. And so did Premiere. They agreed. That's another pay-per-view distributor. They agreed to carry it, but Viewers Choice and Cablevision did not. So it was already an uphill battle, and we're still making it uphill. We're still fighting against the odds because it's not available everywhere. It's not as widely available as a WWF pay-per-view or a WCW pay-per-view. But the WWF, for all the negative things you want to say about Vince McMahon, and most of them, 99% of the negatives about Vince McMahon are warranted, and I stand by you. But something that was really cool that he did at this time was he allowed Paul Heyman to co-promote his show, his pay-per-view, ECW's Barely Legal, on Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. ECW invaded Raw on February 24th, 1997 to promote the show. It was basically a takeover. You had 3 matches that were all ECW competitors. No WWF guys involved at all. And then you also had Heyman himself, the Eliminators, Sabu, Blue Meanie, Nova, Bubba Ray, Sandman, New Jack, Bill Alfonso, they all made appearances on the show as well. And so a really cool move there by WWF, by Vince McMahon, to get ECW and Paul Heyman some exposure for this program coming up, because it's a big deal. Fast forward a couple months, month and a half, here we are. It's April 13th now, 1997. We're in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and 1,170 fans have packed the ECW arena for a sellout crowd. ECW is finally on pay-per-view. It's barely legal, and it's awesome. Another cool thing that WWF did, they helped renovate the building, ECW Arena, and make it suitable for a pay-per-view. They let them borrow some lights for the arena and really helped them out there. Now, also, there was more lights in the arena than normal and backstage, because a good companion piece for this episode of Lore of the Ring is going to be a documentary called Beyond the Mat. You're probably familiar with it, and if you're not, I definitely recommend it. You can watch it on Amazon, or you can pick up a copy off of Amazon or eBay. I would do that. It's a pretty good companion piece. It shows behind the scenes what went on this day at this event. So I'm going to try to not say so much about what you'll find on that DVD or that documentary. I recommend going and watching it for yourself. But nonetheless, that also provided more lighting than usual for this event because they were shooting a movie there. So there was a pre-show, and it got rave reviews from our friend Dave Meltzer at the Wrestling Observer. He wrote that it's undoubtedly the best pre-game show for a wrestling pay-per-view in the history of the business. You had Terry Funk. He cut an emotional promo at his father's gravesite talking about winning the title. There was also 2 dark matches. You had Louis Spicolli. He defeated Balls Mahoney in about 5 minutes. Then you had Chris Chetty and JT Smith defeating Little Guido and Tommy Rich of the FBI. Both matches were said to have been decent, although they felt rushed. JT Smith got a huge pop. He was a surprise partner for Chetty, and he returned to face the FBI, which is, of course, a faction that JT Smith helped found. But the unfortunate part about this pre-show is it's nowhere to be found. I looked high and low. I couldn't find any of it. I couldn't find Terry Funk's promo on YouTube or anywhere online either. So go find it if you can. And, check it out. There's some more information on that on Beyond the Mat as well. So the show opens, though, with a hot crowd. I mean, this crowd is on fire for the product. They love ECW. It's part of them. The ECW crowd is always incredible. And this is no different. They're chanting ECW as the cameras come up. We've got Joey Styles in the ring, and his audio is crap. It's going to be a theme for a little bit of the show. That happens a little bit. There is a hilarious sign over Joey's shoulder in the crowd that says, Bischoff takes it up to blank. I'm going to keep it family friendly here, but you can fill in that blank. That was a funny sign to see. But he's interrupted. His little opening speech, opening dialogue didn't last long. He's interrupted by the tag team champs. It's the Dudleys. They've got Joel Gertner and Sign Guy Dudley with him. And I'm talking about Bubba Ray and Devon, of course. They're the champs. We get loud F.U. Devon chants raining down on the ring. And he says, and this is funny, I love these old school Dudley promos. He grabs the mic now. He kept it a little bit cleaner than normal because, of course, what I said, Request TV had some stipulations. But he says, number 1, shut the hell up. And number 5, bow down to the men in the ring. So, number 1, number 5, that just good stuff there. But that takes us to our opening video package with the classic ECW theme and some classic clips of ECW moments. But it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that happened after the Dudleys have already taken the ring and already interrupted Styles and already got the crowd hot with these promos. So it's kind of ill-placed, and that's something you forgive because this is so new to ECW. Running a pay-per-view, putting it together a show of this magnitude, this is still brand new. This is the first time. So they're ironing out the kinks as we go here. Their opponents in the first match of the night are the Eliminators. It's Perry Saturn and John Kronus, and let me tell you, this match is a banger. It starts with Sign Guy Dudley attacking the Eliminators and getting a total elimination for his troubles. And this match has some crazy spots in it. One of them was when Kronus and Saturn both came off the top with a cartwheel moonsault diving attack to hit each of the Dudleys who were in the ring. And then Saturn hit a Saturn salt to the outside on the Dudleys, followed by Cronus doing a moonsault over the top rope onto them. Saturn also did a double jump moonsault onto Bubba Ray. I mean, what that means when I say double jump moonsault, this man ran, jumped on the ropes, springboarded to another rope, and then did a moonsault. But not to be outdone, the 285-pound John Cronus followed that up with a 450 splash on a Devon. The Eliminators would hit the total elimination to get the win and become the 3-time ECW Tag Team Champs in about 6 minutes, 11 seconds. Now, here's the crazy thing about this, though. Meltzer wasn't as high on this match as I was. He gave it just 2 3/4 stars, but it ruled. I loved it. Now, I would have liked to have seen more back and forth and more offense from the Dudleys, but this was a statement match for the Eliminators. That's not what this match was supposed to do. It wasn't supposed to be a back and forth. It was supposed to establish the Eliminators as a dominant force, and as they said multiple times, they try to get over the best tag team in the world, in the business. And so I loved it. Now, the unfortunate thing about this match is that Bubba Ray, he actually suffered a broken ankle in the match. But the good news is this was the only injury on the show, but he broke his ankle in about 5 minutes into the match. But he said on Busted Open Radio that thank God Bam Bam Bigelow showed him how to properly lace his wrestling boots because it held his ankle in place so that he could finish the match. So gritty performance from Bubba Ray there. You know, he's amped up, a lot of adrenaline flowing. He can't allow himself to miss any part of this match. This is his first pay-per-view match. So, and he's on first. That's a big deal as well. Both of these tag teams are put in great spots because going on first on the first pay-per-view, that's a big deal. Now, Gertner got back in the ring after the match, though, and he said that the winners, according to his stud muffin scoring system, by a score of 86-83, and still the ECW Tag Team Champs are the Dudleys. But he's given a total elimination as well, and the crowd is just loving it, eating it up. Now, Joey Styles is next. He hypes the three-way dance later. That's going to be our co-main event. But he throws to a video package of highlights for the Sandman. And when he gets back to Styles, he says that we were scheduled for a match here between Mr. No Gimmicks Needed Chris Candido and Lance Storm, but Candido has a biceps injury, and he'll be out of action for a while. But he comes out, and he's here with a promo anyway. He cuts a promo about how he was with ECW from the start, but he left, and he conquered the wrestling world. He was at WrestleMania last year, winning the tag team titles with Dr. Tom Pritchard. Now he's back, and he's upset because he should be in the main event. It's a very impassioned speech, but my God, it was hard to understand. Number one, Chris Candido had a very southern accent at times, but also the audio just wasn't great here. But Lance Storm's out now. He's still going to have a match, even if it's not with Candido, and he'll face Rob Van Dam. RVD gets some "You Sold Out" chants to open, but they fade as the match starts. The match was solid. I mean, these two honestly couldn't have a bad match if they tried. Two very solid wrestlers, great workers. Some good high spots in this one, including Storm being Irish whipped into the corner but leaping to the top rope and hitting a back elbow. RVD hit a moonsault on the floor off the guardrail and also had some chair spots. There was also some more sellout chants directed at RVD, and that's because RVD at the time was believed to be leaving ECW for WCW. So that's why the fans were yelling that during this match. You wouldn't know that if you just watched the show because Joey Styles does not mention it. It's not brought up, but that's the reason. And the most shocking moment of this match, though, to me, was that RVD hit a 5-star frog splash, but Storm kicked out. That wasn't the finish. But the worst thing about this match, though, Storm hit RVD with the weakest chair shot you'll ever see from someone not named Hulk Hogan. There's a very funny and very famous clip of Hulk Hogan just dinking someone in the head with a chair. Look that up on YouTube as well. But this chair shot was not much better. And he did it more than once. The crowd booed because they were so weak. I mean, in ECW, if you're not going to take the guy's head off, don't even bother picking up a chair. The finish comes after the last of them, though. RVD hops up, hits the Van Daminator, followed by a standing moonsault, and he gets the pinfall. 10 minutes and 10 seconds, 2.5 stars from Meltzer, solid action. But after the match, RVD's not done. Lance Storm tries to shake his hand and do the classy thing, but RVD cuts a promo. Says that he doesn't care about Lance Storm's respect or even the fans' respect or even Paul E's respect. He says that, yeah, he sold out to himself. by getting in the ring because he was chosen as a backup for this match, filling in for the injured Candido, and he's no second line anything. But he did it for the business because by beating Lance Storm, he's now worth more money here and more money elsewhere. So, again, hinting at, hey, RVD might be off to WCW or WWF, I guess. Back to Joey Styles now, and he says we're going to do something a little different for this next match. We have a 6-man match from the fastest growing and hottest promotion in Japan. It's Michinoku Pro Wrestling. It's a mixture of Japanese style wrestling and lucha libre. The match itself, fantastic. It features BWO's Japan contingency, that's right, the Blue World Order, of course parody of the New World Order, NWO and WCW. Listen, if the NWO is going to have a Japan branch with Masahiro Chono and Muda and Scott Norton, then yeah, BWO is going to have a Japan branch. Who's with them? Well, you've got Taka Michinoku, Dick Togo, and Terry Boy. And they're going to face off against Grand Hamada, Masada Yakushi, and the Great Sasuke. This match is fast-paced. It had a lot of high-flying. It was hard-hitting. It had it all. You had multiple false finishes, plenty of back and forth. The finish here was when Sasuke hit a tiger suplex on Taka Michinoku and got the win. Just under 17 minutes. Dave loved it. He gave it 4.5 stars. This match is not your typical ECW match. I mean, like I said, this is 6 guys from Michinoku Pro. But this match was a banger. Definitely go out of your way to watch it. Next up, we get a video package here, and it's for Stevie Richards. He's again hyping the 3-way match later. It's going to be him, the Sandman, and Terry Funk. It's kind of weird because very upbeat music is playing the whole time that Stevie's talking, and it's a very serious and intense promo about, how he's the underdog and he's becoming a man. This is not Big Stevie Cool. This is Stevie Richards that's going to be in this match. But this music is just overshadowing it, distracting. It's another one of those things that ECW's kind of learning on the fly here. You got to forgive it. It's charming for what it is. But the next match is not charming. It's ECW television champ Shane Douglas, the franchise, versus Pitbull number 2. Douglas is out first, and he's got Francine with him, who's wearing a sheer see-through dress. Hello. And he's got 4 members of the Philadelphia Riot Squad with him. Douglas had broken Pitbull number 1's neck. He'd been in a feud with the Pitbulls for a while now. He broke Pitbull number 1's neck. So now Pitbull number 2, he wants revenge. He cuts a promo before the match about how he came back to lead everyone to Nirvana and how he's the only one man enough to call out wrestlers from other promotions, and he's been man enough to face everyone that's tried to take his title, including a masked man who is speculated to have been Ravishing Rick Rude. Pitbull number 2 is out now, and he wastes no time. He runs into the ring, and the match is underway before we can even stop the entrance music. The pace slows down drastically, though, and we get a lot of rest holds in this one. And if you don't know rest holds, that's your chin lock, your side headlock, your holds that, yeah, okay, it probably is uncomfortable, but really it's just the guys wasting time, resting. You do these matches, or you do these moves, later in the match. Not right out the gate. That's okay. These two just didn't have great chemistry together, and that's fine. It had plenty of awkward moments where it looks like they were having to wait on spots because they didn't have the timing right. Pitbull number 2 catches Shane Douglas off the top rope, but he didn't remember the spot, so he just puts him down. And then he gets the spot, though, and he picks Douglas back up, walks backwards to the ropes, just tosses Douglas over his head through a table at ringside. Pitbull number 1, who's sitting at ringside, he gets involved. He's got a neck brace on, but he's not letting that slow him down. He starts attacking Douglas, but the Riot Squad escorts him out. That's what they're there for, to keep the peace. There was a spot where they had a guardrail in the ring. Douglas was supposed to drop Pitbull number 2 on it, on his crotch, but Pitbull number 2 kicked it over on his way up, so they missed that spot. But don't worry. They get it in. They get that spot on the outside. This match is just way too long. It's the longest match of the night for some reason, and it's the worst match of the night. It's just that's a brutal combination. To be the longest match and the worst match. But after Pitbull number 2 hits Douglas with a chain, Chris Candido runs in, and he's promptly knocked off the apron. Then the finish comes after a belly-to-belly from Douglas and the 3 count. The Masked Man finally comes out also, so that storyline, we're not going to just let it go in vain. He comes out and says a deal is a deal, and he'll take off the mask now, but he gets Francine. So he kisses Francine while wearing a Rick Rude robe. He does the signature Rick Rude dance, the hip swivel. But it turns out it's not Rick Rude. Rick Rude was actually one of the Riot Squad members, and the Masked Man was Brian Lee, who would, of course, go on to become Chains from the Disciples of Apocalypse in WWF. And they take Douglas out, and the best thing about the match happened after it was over. That's what it was. Rick Rude being there was cool. Them attacking Douglas like that was cool. It was a good swerve. Meltzer gave it 3/4 of a star. It went almost 21 minutes. That's just too long. It was terrible. But next we get a promo from the other man in the 3-way dance. It's a promo from the ECW World Heavyweight Champ, Raven. And those Raven ECW promos are all great. So, they weren't able to recreate those in WWF by the time he got there. They should have rebuilt Raven to what he was in ECW, but they couldn't do it. Go back and watch Raven's promos in ECW. They're fantastic. But he's facing the winner of the 3-way dance. So the 3-way dance was Stevie Richards, Sandman, Terry Funk. He's going to face the winner immediately after. And that's followed by a very intense and close-up promo from Taz and Bill Alfonso. He's facing Sabu. The build to this match has been about a year and a half in the making. So you don't talk about long-term storytelling. This is it. And this promo just really makes it feel like a big-time fight. In the months leading up to this, Taz would call out Sabu, but Sabu never answered the call. And what's weird about that is, Sabu was the submission machine. He choked everyone out, undefeated, couldn't be beat. But Sabu was a babyface also, because when you do the spots that Sabu does, the fans are going to love you. When you go through tables and you jump off things and you use the chairs as much, the ECW fans are going to be behind you. So it's kind of weird for Sabu to just always leave his challenges unanswered, because that's a chicken heel move. But nonetheless, it's okay. At November to Remember in 1996, Taz announced that he would be facing Sabu at the company's first pay-per-view. So it was set in stone. Taz has a great entrance here. We've got orange fog going, and Team Taz and Bill Alfonso are escorting him to the ring. So it was a very legit and intense entrance, but Sabu's was the exact opposite. He just runs out to the ring while Taz is still getting in it. No music, no cares. He's ready to go. Really sells how focused and ready to fight he was, though. So I love that. The match had great back and forth early on. Both guys got their strengths highlighted. Taz dominated on the mat with some great combination wrestling. Sabu got Taz in the crowd and then back in the ring and did a triple jump splash over the guardrail on top of Taz. This match had the ECW spots that we're used to. Chairs, tables, fan participation. It ended up going 17 minutes and 49 seconds. And the finish comes when Sabu submitted to the Taz mission. So Taz is still undefeated, still can't be beat. Sabu was not the better man here. Meltzer gave it 3.25 stars. I probably liked it a little bit more than that, to be honest with you, but it was a solid match regardless. I would probably be in around the 4-star range for this match. After the match, Taz gets a mic and he tells Sabu that he gave him the fight of his life and he wants to shake his hand. They shake hands, and Sabu raises Taz's hand for the crowd to cheer. So it's a classy conclusion to their feud, but it's short-lived because out comes RVD, who's Sabu's tag team partner, and he attacks Taz. And then he and Sabu beat Taz for a while, and they end up putting Taz through a table at ringside. But after the beatdown, the biggest swerve is when Fonzie gets in the ring. Bill Alfonso, who is Taz's manager, he gets in the ring, takes off his Team Taz shirt, and he's wearing a Sabu shirt underneath. Honestly, though, very weird, very out of place. Didn't make a lick of sense, because if you're going to do this, why would you have him switch sides on Taz after the match? Taz has already won. To me, you should have had him do it during the match. Get involved in the match. Make that a huge distraction to where Taz is, got the odds stacked against him. Maybe he lays out RVD and he lays out Fonzie, and then he still makes Sabu tap. That's what I would have done. Oh well, I wasn't the booker. And I'm not complaining. I still love this show. So Joey Styles addresses the crowd next, and we're winding down here. He's introducing his guest commentary partner for the main event, Tommy Dreamer. That's worth noting. Tommy Dreamer was the only guest commentator all show, and he just did it for the last 2 matches. Joey Styles did a pay-per-views live and solo. Hats off to Joey Styles. He's one of the best to ever do it. But next up, we've got the BWO. That's the Blue Meanie, Hollywood Nova, 7-Eleven, and Thomas the Inchworm Rodman. They accompany Big Stevie Cool to the ring. Out second for this triple threat match is the Sandman, and it's a lengthy Sandman entrance. He's bleeding from the forehead as soon as we see him. Like, he just walks out the tunnel, out the curtain, and he's already bleeding. And he's smoking a cigarette. He's chugging a beer, all while, then smashing the can on his head afterwards. It's a very typical, perfect Sandman entrance. Gotta love it. Very nostalgic. But next up, it's the legendary Terry Funk. The Funker's out last. Now, after the bell rings, this is cool. They're all 3 in the ring ready to go. After the bell rings, Sandman cracks open another beer and offers it to Funk, but he doesn't take it. So Sandman just chugs some of it and then spits it in Stevie's face. Cool spot there. This match had good back and forth. Plenty of short-term alliances, like 2 guys would tag up on the other, and then they would turn on each other, and then another alliance. That was great. That's good triple threat or 3-way dance, whatever you want to call it. That's good booking there. The Sandman goes and grabs a ladder in this one. He tosses it in the ring over his head, over the top rope, and it nails Terry Funk in the head. That was funny. The best part about it is this is a painter's ladder. This is like a ladder that you would go to Home Depot and buy. This is not the typical ladder that we see in wrestling with the rungs up both sides that both sides can be climbed up. So I love that part of it as well. After a while, the 3 beating the hell out of each other, Sandman leaves again, and this time he comes back with a trash can. And just like with the ladder, he tosses it over the top rope into the ring and nails Terry Funk in the head again. Big Stevie Cool, he's the first man eliminated. Funk and Sandman double powerbomb him and then both cover him. So he's out. After that, Funk and Sandman shake hands before getting back to business. Then, to amp up the brutality, as if a ladder, chairs, and a trash can aren't enough, barbed wire enters the fold. Funk whips Sandman's bare back quite a few times with it, and then Sandman wraps it around himself and runs at Funk with a body attack. Now, Stevie's still out here for some reason. He hasn't gone back to the locker room, and he's involved with the finish. Funk put the trash can over Sandman's head. Stevie super kicked it, and then Terry Funk hit a moonsault off the top rope for the pinfall. 19 minutes, 10 seconds. Dave Meltzer loved it, gave it 4 stars, his second highest rating of the night. I liked it. I'll be honest with you, though. I don't know about 4 stars, though. But the story of 53-year-old Terry Funk beating the odds and earning the title shot, that is great. So, I mean, why not? I don't hate this match at all. I just like some of the others that we've seen more. But fine match, and it's a great story with Terry Funk beating the odds. Now, immediately after the pin, though, Raven wastes no time here. He's out and ready for the match against Funk. The bell rings, and Raven nails Funk, who's still laying on the mat with the title belt. Raven hits his patented drop toe hold onto the chair. Joey Styles does a great job of selling how bleak Funk's chances are, so great storytelling in this one. Terry is also just pouring blood at this point. The doctor comes out and checks on him. They're, trying to play it up like he may not be able to continue. He might need to throw in the towel, but of course he won't do it. He's too resilient, too much heart. Raven gets tables involved, and he lays Terry on one at ringside, gets into the ring and does a running diving splash over the top rope onto Funk through the table. Then we get a run-in from Reggie Bennett. And if you're unfamiliar, don't let the name fool you. Reggie Bennett is a female, and she attacks Terry Funk. She hit him with a chair and then powerbombed him. It wasn't a good powerbomb, but hey, hats off to her for being able to powerbomb Terry Funk. Then Raven gets at Mike, and he's taunting Tommy Dreamer up at commentary because, look at your hero. And Tommy Dreamer, excuse me. Then Big Dick Dudley shows up behind Tommy Dreamer, and he hits him in the head with a trash can. Raven DDTs the ref for some reason, and it's safe to say this is the most chaotic sequence of the show. Big Dick Dudley attempts to chokeslam Tommy off the commentary balcony, but Dreamer reversed it and gave Dudley a chokeslam of his own off the platform through a table. Now, it sounds better than it looked. Their timing was way off. It was very obvious that Dudley jumped when he wasn't supposed to. He jumped late or jumped early or something, and he threw himself off the balcony through the table. Dreamer did very little work to contribute, but that's fine. Spots like that happen in wrestling. After that, though, Dreamer took out all 3 remaining members of Raven's Nest that were out there, but it wasn't on camera. As a matter of fact, aside from Reggie Bennett and Big Dick Dudley, I don't know who was out there. They were never shown on camera. All we got was audio of the trash can shots that they received and Joey Styles telling us that Dreamer had laid them out. That's one of those authentic misses of ECW, though. You can forgive it. The camera work wasn't great in this one. Neither was the audio, but it just feels so real. ECW didn't feel overly produced. It was very raw. Tommy gets into the ring now, and he hits Raven with a DDT after a reverse on an Irish whip. And Funk rolls on top of Raven for a pin. But it's a 2 count. But the bell sounds anyway. Yikes. That's a botch. Talk about giving away the finish. Timekeeper and the ref on 2 different pages. It kind of spoils the fact that Terry's going to end up winning. I hate it even more considering that immediately after that, Funk hits Raven with an inside cradle and gets the pinfall. He didn't even have to do another move. It's just Raven kicked out on 2. The bell sound, and then they stand up, inside cradle, 1, 2, 3. So maybe Raven's the one that botched it. Seems like maybe he was supposed to stay down after Dreamer's DDT. I don't know. But nonetheless, Terry Funk's done it. He's the ECW World Heavyweight Champion at age 53. This match went 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Got 3.25 stars from Meltzer. It's a fine finish to the company's first ever pay-per-view. Now, after the match, Funk didn't let the fact that he was absolutely drenched in blood stop him from hugging all over the fans. Gross. Yuck. I mean, this man just wrestled, 26 minutes? Over 26 minutes. And he covered in blood and sweat. And he's just hugging fans, high-fiving fans. Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is. Now, it is worth noting also about Terry Funk bleeding here. He actually swallowed his blade in this one. You heard me correctly. Tommy Dreamer and Bubba Ray were talking about this show on Busted Open Radio, and they brought up how the Funker liked to store his blade in his mouth during matches that he was supposed to bleed in. That's insane on its own, but he swallowed it in this one. And it wasn't the first time he'd done that. I cannot imagine passing a razor blade. First of all, swallowing it's bad enough. Cutting up your inside of your throat and your digestive system, but passing it in your stool. Ow. Man. But show's off the air, and it's a good thing, because immediately after the show, the generators actually blew and the arena lost power. So you talk about all the stars aligning for this show to happen, and then all the stars aligning again to make sure that everything went as planned. Imagine if the generators blew 5 minutes earlier and we don't see the finish of this match. Disaster. But it didn't. So our RVD 5-star moment was really the whole show. This was an incredible moment for ECW as a company. It may be a cop-out to say the entire show, but this show meant so much to so many. Tip of the cap. They, went ahead and announced their next pay-per-view on this show, which is going to take place in August, and that was Hardcore Heaven. Took place on August 17th, and they actually went down to Florida for the venue in this one, but a lot was riding on this show. Imagine if this show bombed. You already committed to pay-per-view number 2. You already put the money up for pay-per-view number 2. And back then, you didn't get your return on your investment right then. They held the money. And so you're down. Tommy Dreamer and Bubba were talking about this. You're down $500,000 committed to these 2 shows. And what happens if you don't sell any tickets? What happens if you don't sell any pay-per-view buys? Luckily, that didn't happen, though. They actually had about 104,000 buys. That's pretty good for a regional promotion that doesn't have exposure and doesn't have a big machine backing them. 104,000 households watched this pay-per-view in 1997. Hats off. The shockmaster moment of this show, I have a tie. It's between Lance Storm's cotton soft chair shots against RVD. And then you got that whole match between Shane Douglas and Pitbull number 2. Both sucked out loud. I guess I got to go with Lance Storm's chair shots, though, if I had to pick one. Because you just expect more out of Lance Storm than I expect out of Pitbull number 2. So, that's it. Next episode, we're going to go back to the big machine, though. We're going to do WWF/WWE pay-per-views. Here are your options. Option number 1 is going to be WWE, I think it was E at this time, yeah. Judgment Day is 2003. This show featured Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri versus Team Angle. You had Mr. America versus Roddy Piper. Who is Mr. America? Is it Hulk Hogan? You also had Kevin Nash versus Triple H. And you had Brock Lesnar versus The Big Show. So that's some of the highlights on that show. Poll option number 2 is going to be Survivor Series 1987. If that seems like a way far back, it's because it is. It's the first ever Survivor Series. So we're going to talk about the history, how the show came together, and the 4 matches that made up that historic card. Next poll option is going to be WWE Backlash 2008. This card featured Shawn Michaels versus Batista, The Undertaker versus Edge, and a fatal 4-way match between Triple H, Randy Orton, John Cena, and JBL. Fun stuff there. And the last one is the most recent pay-per-view I've ever put on a poll option. WWE Money in the Bank 2019. This one had the women's Money in the Bank ladder match with Bayley, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Ember Moon, Mandy Rose, Naomi, Natalya, and Nikki Cross. You also had Rey Mysterio versus Samoa Joe. You also had Roman Reigns versus Elias. That was a blink and you miss it kind of match. And then the men's Money in the Bank ladder match was Brock Lesnar versus Ali, Andrade, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Randy Orton, and Ricochet. So I'll put that poll option out there in the coming days. Be on the lookout for it. Of course, the poll is only available on Twitter at @LoreOfTheRing_. And I'm on Twitter at DMFrank_. Give us a follow. Tell a friend. Tell a fan. Spread the word. Subscribe to the pod. Share the pod. Give me a review on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you listen. And yeah, with that, ECW Barely Legal. Down for the 3 count. So long from the Volunteer State.
Extreme.